Hello guys, today I'll be talking about 10 great albums from the year 2001. Now this is not a top 10, these are 10 albums that I randomly selected that I feel are pretty great from this year 2001. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is in no particular order, but the first album I want to talk about is Sevendust Animosity, often considered their best or one of their best, and I agree that it is one of their best. Not my favorite album by them, but it is one of my favorites though. But Home has to be my number one for me when it comes to this band. But many great songs on here like TOAB, Praise, of course Angel's Son, which is a big song for them, Trust, Live Again. There's many solid songs on here. Maybe a few songs that I'd maybe skip once in a while or sometimes, but overall pretty solid album. But next we have Beyond Good and Evil, and this is by The Cult, and I think this album does not get the recognition it deserves. Really underrated album, not just from the band, but just when it comes to 2000s albums from older bands. I mean, this album's definitely a great comeback. It's just that, if I remember correctly, this album wasn't promoted very well, but some of my favorites: War of the Progress, Rise, Take the Power, American Gothic, Speed of Light, Ashes and Ghosts is pretty good too. But yeah, there's a lot of bangers on here, to be honest, especially the single Rise, which is maybe the biggest song on here. But yeah, this album is pretty dang good, and if you're a rock fan or if you're into older rock groups, definitely check out The Cult, and eventually definitely check out this album because the bangers on here definitely bang. So there you go. Let's go ahead and move on to the next album, Sum 41, All Killer No Filler, which is easily my favorite album by them, with Chuck in close second. But some of my favorites on here: Nothing on My Back, Fat Lip, Rhythms, In Too Deep, of course, Motivation, Handle This. Many great songs on here, many pop punk classics for sure. But yeah, definitely a great album. Then we get to Blink-182, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And yeah, this is probably, this album is kind of fights for being my favorite Blink-182 album. This one or Enema of the State. Well, maybe Enema State, but this album still definitely one of their best. Some of my favorites being Online Songs, which is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated songs. Anthem Part 2, of course. Give Me One Good Reason is another underrated song from them, I'd say. Every Time I Look at You, or I Look for You, Stay Together for the Kids, The Rock Show. Many great songs on here. Honestly, really can't go wrong with any of the songs on here. Definitely a pop punk classic. And essential, I'd say. But next we have 311 from Chaos. And yeah, this is probably one of my favorites from the band. And the album also was commercially successful for them, especially with the single Amber. But you have some pretty solid deep cuts or non-singles like Uncalm, which is a really good song. Maybe one of the most underrated songs. And I'd say the same thing for Wake Your Mind Up. You Wouldn't Believe is pretty good too, which is another single from the album. But yeah, this album pretty dang good. If you like the mix of rock, reggae, and rap, if you're a Sublime fan, maybe definitely check out this album if you haven't heard it, or this band. But next we have Just Push Play by Aerosmith. This album gets a lot of flack from fans. Many people say that it's maybe their worst. I disagree. I think either Honkin' on Bobo or Music from Another Dimension is my least favorite, which is, I know, it's probably not a popular thing to say, because I'm sure most people would probably listen to those over this one, because this is probably one of their most poppy albums. But I think the album is pretty dang good, and yeah, you can tell it's of its time, especially with certain tracks like Just Push Play and Out of Your Head, or in Trip Hoppin'. But I don't know, I have a good time with the album. Some of my favorites: Beyond Beautiful, Just Push Play, and even the single Jaded's pretty dang good, I'd say. I do like Trip Hop, and that's a pretty catchy song. Then you have the underrated song Light Inside. I think that's the big underrated song from the album for me personally, but yeah, overall, pretty good album. But next we have Lateralis by Tool, definitely one of their best. Honestly, those first 3 albums fight for being my favorite Tool album, but many great songs on here. The Grudge, The Patient, Parabola, Ticks and Leeches, hands down one of the most underrated songs, and also maybe one of the heaviest songs on here. You also have the title track, which is pretty dang good. And then of course you have the big song Schism. So yeah, honestly, really good album, and definitely one of the best albums from this year, easily for me. Then next we have Machine by Static X, one of their best in my opinion. Some people consider it a step down from Wisconsin Death Trip, which was of course their debut. Yeah, not as good, but it's probably my second favorite album by them, to be honest. I mean, you do have bangers like Get to the Gone, Black and White, and In a Bag. But you have other great songs like Permanence, which I think is one of the most underrated songs. I'd say the same thing for Burn to Burn and Otsego Undead. Otsego Undead may probably be in a contender for being my favorite Otsego song by these guys. But yeah, all around, pretty good album, and kind of overlooked when it comes to new metal. Maybe I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's big when it comes to underground metal, who knows, or underground new metal, who knows. But either way, really good album, and a great follow-up to Wisconsin Death Trip, in my opinion. And we got Iowa by Slipknot, which is arguably maybe their darkest album, and maybe some fans consider it their best. The debut is my favorite, but this album is one of their best, though. Of course, many bangers, of course, because of course it is Slipknot, but some of my favorites: People Equal Shit, My Plague, Everything Ends, and then one of the most underrated songs in my opinion, The Shape, Left Behind. Gently is a song that I've grown to like more and more with time, and yeah, all around a really great album, and definitely one of the best new metal albums to come from 2001. Finally, the last album here, we have Toxicity by System of a Down, one of my favorite albums of all time. I honestly can't go wrong with any of the songs on here, at least to me. I mean, if I had to narrow down favorites: Prison Song, Needles, Deer Dance, Chop Suey, Toxicity, Aerials, Science, and Shimmy. I mean, it's hard to, I don't know, it's a really damn good album, but yeah. Anyways, those are my 10 albums. Let me know if you can think of any more albums from this year that you think are pretty dang good, and all the good stuff. And also, let me know your thoughts on my list. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.